What do you get if you put together bodice, trousers and sleeve? A jumpsuit! If you're subscribed, you know I've been making my own vlogs, bodice, trousers and sleeves, and if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it, and that way you don't miss anything. So I thought while I was making the vlogs that the best way to try them is to make a jumpsuit, because you can try them all at once. So let's do it. And one thing I want to add is pockets. The last time I did dresses, I added pockets, side pockets, and I'm really pleased with them. They're really useful. So I want to add trousers pockets this time. In our fabric of choice, we need to cut all our pieces to start working with the pockets. Placing the front pieces of the pockets against the trousers, we're going to sew them together, top stitch them, and then add in the back of the pockets so we can sew them together. We can then add the bodice front and start working with the back, sewing together the two back pieces along the middle and adding the zipper on top. We can now sew the back and front together and start with the sleeves. Once we close them together, we can add them to the armholes and then hem both the sleeves and the ankles. And to finish the project, the facings. The facings are sewn on the shoulder area and then to the neckline to give it a nice finish. Because the blocks are already made, they act like your pattern. So we basically are going to cut all the pieces we need, and for the pockets, for the inside bit of the pocket, I'm going to use black cotton I got in IKEA, really cheap, so I don't waste the good fabric. I have 2 meters of this lovely crepe. It's quite thin and it has lovely autumn palette of colors, but I think it will be good at any time of the year. And one thing I'm going to be really careful about is the grain when cutting, because not only it will look terrible with the pattern, but the trousers, for example, will twist, and that is a no-no. And because I want to do things properly and try to be as neat as possible when sewing, I want to match the pattern.
Let's see how that goes.
This is not a difficult project, but it has a lot of pieces to it. So for the front, we are going to need a bodice and 2 pieces for the trousers. And the back I'm going to do as a whole. I'm not going to cut bodice and then trousers, but a whole piece. And this is different from the front because the front bit needs the pocket, so it has a different cut here, and then 2 more pieces for each pocket. 2 sleeves and the facings. I want to do facings on the neck. So that's it. I've realized that because I have 2 front trousers and the bodice, I have to first sew the middle bit of the front trousers so I can then match it to the bodice. So I haven't cut the bodice yet. I have this with pins and I'm going to sew this. Of course you can't match the whole curve, but you can match the front bit, the straight bit. So I'm going to do that so I can then cut the bodice. And to cut the back bit, I had to put together the trousers and the bodice back and make it align so I could trace it and then cut it. And because I have a whole back bodice and I only needed half of it, I just trace with some chalk. The sleeves were easy enough to trace, and what I did is that I wanted to keep that wave that I made at the bottom of the block, so I just draw it again, even though it is a shorter sleeve, so it has a nice shape. And the pockets, I know I said that I wanted to do them with a normal black lining, but because I have a lot of material left and it is a thin material, it's not like you have a thick material and you need a soft lining, I'm going to use the same. So I made sure they match the front of the trousers, and then the front of the pocket I cut the same, and I'm going to put it against the front of the trousers to cut that diagonal bit to make the front pocket. And this is going to be sewn right sides together and then folded back and with a top stitch to make it a bit stronger. And this will be my pockets already with the top stitching as well. And what I did is that I made sure they didn't move by adding a stitch, by sewing them together on the top and the side, even though this isn't really necessary because this top will be sewn to the bodice. And now what I'm going to do is to finish all around these two loose pieces of material that are the pocket. And now that we have the pockets already sewn, we can sew it to the bodice to make the front of the jumpsuit. We have a little problem here. I think I was a bit, I don't know how to define myself, adventurous, unconscious, ignorant. When I said that this pattern, because it's a sort of tile pattern and it's always the same, will be easy to match, and it isn't. It's not easy to match at all. So I couldn't manage to make it match, but I did manage at the end, sort of. I made a bit of a trick. I used some magic or some trickery or something, and it is that instead of putting it right sides together, I just placed the bodice on top of the trousers front and then see where it will match, fold that, press it and sew it with a top stitch. I was only able to do this because if I did it right sides together like you would, I didn't have room to move the pattern so they match. So it's just, I didn't know, I had to leave more space, or I have to move my pattern on the, well, I knew, but I thought this one wasn't as difficult. And so I had to do it like that. So you don't really see you see the seam, but you see the pattern matching, so that's good. I don't know, on the other hand, how I managed to match the front trousers bit. I think it's because it's the vertical line and it's just like a mirror effect on these little orange squares. I think that's the reason why, because I didn't pay any attention to that. And of course the pockets are easy to match because it's only pieces of material one on top of the other, so you can see and it's easy to do. But the back is not matching. The back won't match. So it's a pity really, but well, we're learning here, we're learning. So I was thinking that I had bought myself a invisible zipper, of course, because if my jumpsuit was all matchy-matchy, I was going to put an invisible zipper. But because it's not matchy-matchy, I think I'm going to embrace the zipper. So you just see the zipper on the back, and I'm going to use this metallic effect one. Why not? And I've used the method I've done a few times already. I love it. It's really easy to do, and it is that you just sew your seam like if you weren't going to put a zipper in, and then you open that seam, you place the zipper on top, and with pins make sure it doesn't move, and sew the zipper with a zipper foot. And I think it looks really good, and it is quite comfortable as well. I know you are sewing an extra seam, but it's really convenient because it doesn't move and you don't get this feeling that it's going to get in the wrong place. So that's good. And now I'm going to sew the front and back of the jumpsuit together, and it's really easy because it's only between the legs, the sides and the shoulders. But the only thing is that when you sew in between the legs, don't go from ankle to ankle, just go from crotch to one ankle and from crotch to the other ankle, so it doesn't twist. The sleeves only need the seam to put them together, and then to place them in the garment. I always like to put the garment inside out because for me it's easier to put the pins in. The only thing when doing this is you have to be careful with sides, because when you put it inside out, your left side comes to be your right side and vice versa, so you have to be careful which sleeve you use where. And now that you have everything together, you can try it on and decide the length you want it to be and hem the sleeves as well. And I did it with a double hem at 1 centimeter wide. And I'm going to hem the neckline with facings. What are facings? They are these sort of collars that you sew together with your garment. You sew them right sides together, so when you put them inside you won't see any seams or any hems. And for this one, because the zip is in the middle of the back, you'll need 3. You need the long front one and 2 half backs. And you can cut them either at the beginning of the project or when you try it on and decide which sort of neckline you will prefer. It doesn't really matter. But before sewing it to the garment, we need to sew the 3 together by the 2 shoulder seams. I love how facings look, but the only problem they have is that they move a little. So to make them a little bit more stable, you need to understitch them, not top stitch them, because if you do that, you ruin the finish, in my opinion, but understitch them. So I made a zigzag stitch on top of the seam and the facings, so that way it's inside and you don't see them. And what I did is that I did top stitch on the shoulders, so they are in place, and I had to top stitch as well on the zipper. So this is the final result. I'm quite happy with a few things and a bit sad with another one. I'm happy because the 3 blocks I made work perfectly fine, so you can easily make your own clothes by following your own measurements, which is quite good. I'm really happy with the pockets. I think they look amazing and they match the pattern behind them. But it took me a while to make everything match. I thought this fabric would be easy because I thought the pattern was structured and it could be quite easy to do, but it wasn't. I could match the trousers by chance, I think, because I chose a vertical line, so it was easy because it has a mirror effect. But the rest was quite difficult because here you have lines going everywhere and I wasn't able to match the back either. And I'm quite happy with the facing as well, even though I had problems sewing it to the zipper at the back. I had some facings to zippers before, but on this one it was different because it wasn't an invisible zipper. I was used to do it with invisible zippers, and on this one you have to top stitch it, which is a bit different, but anyways. And I had made a trial one, and this is the other one. I quite like it. It's a soft material, it's quite cozy, and I'm happy about it. I'm quite happy about a few things. I'm happy about zippers, the patterns, the pockets, and a bit disappointed with that one on the matching bit because this one matched quite well. Even on the sides I was able to match the horizontal lines, so it looks quite neat. The only thing I'm not happy about this one is with the pockets. That's why it's a good thing to make a toile or to try before you do them, because these pockets are not very deep. As you can see, my camera wasn't focused, so I finished the video again outside. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you want, leave me any comment and don't forget to subscribe if you're not already,